there's lots of different processes to get links. So like you can do like you were talking about, you can go look at your competitors and say, what do they have that I don't have? You can reach out to those, websites and say, hey, I'd also like a link. Here's some value. You can monitor the links that you've had in the past and see which ones have dropped off and go reach back out and say, hey, can I get those again? You can reach out to bloggers or influencers and say, here's my product. Will you write about me and get a link? You can, build relationships with, the newspaper articles and reporters and stuff like that and try to get links that way. What's your preferred method? And have you noticed that one over the other moves the needle faster?
I would say our bread and butter is digital PR, which is really prioritizing content up front and thinking about it in a way that's mutually beneficial to the journalist. So at GoFish, we prioritize all of our link building on like media, publications, journalists, because one, that's like typically going to be high quality websites that we're getting links from. And two, there's so many different media publications that we can pull from in terms of like matching up relevancy with our clients. And also a site like New York Times or Washington Post is going to be relevant to almost every website. So that would be a win for almost every client. So that's why we prioritize the media journalism side of things. From the digital PR perspective, we always do fresh campaigns with a focus on content. And within that content, we're not just writing a story that we're going to pitch to a journalist. We're actually doing a level of like data analysis, a survey. Sometimes we do like interactive campaigns. So we'll create like an interactive calculator or something to that effect and really create something that a journalist is going to be excited to cover. This has been the best strategy that we've found to secure those high quality backlinks without necessarily having like an established reputation of whatever the client is. Like the client could be pretty much anybody. If your piece of content is good, it's going to get pick up and get coverage. At the same point, you don't necessarily have to have those journalistic relationships that are so coveted in the PR world. If your piece of content is good, it'll really speak for itself. So that's the best way we've seen to start from the ground up, is really prioritizing content and prioritizing unique, interesting content with a data component or with something that like is going to add value to a journalist, that a journalist is looking for to add to their stories, to write a brand new, fresh story about, and not just like a specific product or service that the client might be promoting at the time, because that's less valuable to a journalist. They get dozens of pitches every day from all of the different products and services. But if they can get something that's like data driven, that's going to add to their story and like really be something to share with their readers, I think that's where we see the most benefit and the most success.
That's an interesting approach. I want you to dig down a little bit deeper into that. So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is, if I'm a chiropractor, I should, and you can use AI to do this, but build some kind of calculator or tool or something that adds value to your clients and put it on your website, get that value, then get that data, and then reach out to a journalist and say, hey, here's what we've done. Nobody else in the industry has done this. Come check this out and write an article about us. Is that kind of the approach?
Yeah, pretty much. We frame it as something that we like to call tangential content, which is we pitch it to clients as like content that's related to, but not necessarily about your brand or service. Instead, we're like really focusing on the data, the research, the creative component of it. So it might not necessarily even relate to your specific clients. It'll probably be relevant. It makes sense to like live on your website, but instead it's going to be like a piece of research. So for instance, we did for like an SMS marketing company, we created a calculator where people could input their salary and then select a CEO, a tech CEO, and then it'll pop out like how fast that Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, can make your salary in 0.2 seconds. And we tied that back to SMS marketing through talking about like the tech world and these tech giants that are really taking over. And we also pitched this in the time of the Zuckerberg trials. So it was like really timely, really relevant. And we got a ton of media pickups from that. So it's kind of reframing the thought away from products and services, but instead to the consumers and what is a journalist going to want to write about and what are a journalist's audience going to want to read and be excited about.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.